Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to Red Hot Talk once again. And yes, we had a break last week because I was trying to sort out my studio here. That's why we had a week off. But we're back, and today we're going to talk a lot about Michael Four Third.
Well, actually, as you were offline, you were busy last week, Jimmy. I was in London, so I was occupied too. So
right. Were you down here for photos or for meetings?
Just a break, wedding anniversary, but of course the camera came with me.
Oh right. Oh well.
Yeah.
First of all, congratulations! Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Yeah. So we're doing all the museums, all the sites.
Yep.
It's pretty busy there. So, but yeah, made some interesting discovery shooting in museums with MFT.
Oh, did you all hear that, MFT? So like, it's all coming. It's all coming. I'm telling you. Well, I also been testing something from MFT as well, and so like you guys gonna be very excited to hear about that maybe later on. This April now, right? April, yes. Well, actually, it's April Fool today. Maybe everything we say is wrong, so it's not real.
Yep. This could all be made up. This could all be made up.
Pen F2 is coming.
I didn't think of that. Oops.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. And Pen F2 is coming, by the way. So let's believe that.
Is that's you're getting yours tomorrow, are you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're going to have a conversation today about Michael Four Third, and we're going to discuss a lot about things that's been happening around the industry and why I personally think, as the title suggests, the return of Michael Four Third. But before we do that, we also want to highlight a couple of things. First of all, it's a new software or new update to a software that Rod and I use extensively for our Michael Four Third files. And many of you, if you already know this brand, it's DxO, and for those who haven't, they have one of the best, if not the best, I would say, AI noise reduction software on the market. Because DxO has been around for a long time, and not only the AI reduction is good, but they also have a lot of lens profiles built up over the years. Then they work extremely well together, PureRAW, to get you the best out of whatever you're shooting, camera and lens combo. So let's start with that conversation there. So Rod, you've been testing the latest PureRAW 6. So tell us a little bit more in terms of your discovery compared to, let's say, the previous version.
Well, so first of all, you mentioned the lens corrections. It's worth mentioning those again because they've not changed. But what's different about DxO's corrections are that they don't just do chromatic aberration, corner shading, and distortion. They also apply global lens sharpening based on their own lab tests and how good or how not good your lens is. And as well as that, they also do edge sharpness correction, so that if you've got a lens that's a bit soft at the edges, the profiles won't fix it because nothing can if it's really soft, but it will make it look that little bit better. It can tip it over from being borderline unacceptable to actually all right, which is often all we need. But PureRAW 6 has got two things in it which I think are really, really important. One of them is that it now uses a compressed DNG format. So in the past, if you decided to batch process a whole bunch of your RAW files, the PureRAW DNG files that come out the other end would be 3 or 4 times larger than your original RAW files, and that is bad news. You shoot 200 or 300 images, that's a whole lot of storage space you've lost, a lot. And now that all those evil AI data centers are stealing all our storage and all our RAM, it's getting to be a bit of a problem. So I know you've probably got something to say about storage prices anyway, haven't you, Jimmy? So I think you've been looking at the memory cards. But anyway, in PureRAW 6, this compressed DNG format, the files it produces are typically no larger than your original RAW files, so you don't lose anything. And often they're considerably smaller. So suddenly PureRAW has gone for something you might use occasionally to something you can use all the time. So that's cool. The other thing is that they didn't make a big fuss about it, but it incorporates AI dust removal. So this doesn't make any difference to my MFT photography because you tend not to get any serious dust issues with MFT cameras anyway. I don't think I've ever cleaned a sensor in an MFT camera. But I also shoot on Sony, which is like the opposite. So that is like, it's got some kind of special dust attracting coating on the sensors somehow. And they are always quite messy. And it does a really good job. So, you know, you could just chuck all your Sony files at DxO PureRAW, and they come out the other end corrected, denoised, sharper, and cleaned up with no dust spots. It's amazing. So it's not cheap, but it's really good bit of software.
It is. I mean, I think that one particular point I want to address, which is you already mentioned, is the new compressed DNG. In your eyes, you know, not only the size is smaller, but also in terms of quality, you were saying that it's virtually no difference to the RAW.
I'm sure somebody somewhere has managed to find some differences, but so far I've not been able to detect any myself on my images and the way I work and the way I edit them. It looks just the same to me. So it's a massive win. What's more, it's I hadn't realized there was such a thing as compressed DNG format. Obviously there is, but all my other software can see it and open it without any problems. No. So it's not like it's a format that's not supported elsewhere. So it's all good at the moment.
So that's certainly very exciting, and I'd already seen this dice to a screen said that you know, he probably has his own experience about the 8 terabyte hard drive. I'm just gonna bring one over here so you can all see the comment here. And sorry, I recently changed my screen layout, as you can all tell, so still getting used to it, so just bear with me if I'm adjusting here and there on the fly. So this is the new comment. I bought an 8 terabyte hard drive right before the prices went up. If you don't know, actually, many of you may not be aware, if you now go online trying to find hard drive, traditional hard drive I'm talking about, SSD, any sort of SSD, whether it's going to be the old like 2.5-inch SSD or the newer M2 SSD that you put into a lot of the faster computers, and memory cards, like whether it's going to be CF Express, SD cards, everything has gone up by almost double. So like things that you may have seen like a few months ago, like in terms of memory card for about £50, it will now cost you £100. So if you don't believe me, go online and check it out now. So like it may surprise you. But I still managed to find a couple of sites still selling the old prices, but I don't think they're gonna last long. They're very much probably old, like new old stocks that have been lying around for a while. So as long as they go into the new stock, they're gonna have to pay the new prices, and then that means we are gonna have to pay the new prices. So yep, there you go. Good luck for hunting some storage at the moment.
So yeah, we're paying more for our storage just because Adobe's bought it all, so it can charge us for AI.
Oh yes, evil Adobe, evil Adobe, yeah,
and not just Adobe. Not just Adobe.
Everybody. In fact, all the AI companies that we are now like so fond with, and they are really all the company eating up all the storage spaces, all the solid state memories, because the components that they use in data centers and whatnot, you know, and that's what's causing all the major upset to a lot of people like us. And I just got chucked there saying that I got an 18 terabyte couple of years ago for around $200. That's right. I bought the 12 terabyte hard drive. In the UK, our prices are a little bit higher usually, so I bought a 12 terabyte hard drive last year, and before the price went up, it was about £180. And guess what? The price is now currently selling on Amazon, £350 for 12 terabyte. This is it's ridiculous.
We never used to think about it, did we? I mean, I've got a 16 terabyte drive as a kind of rolling backup. It's not very fast, but it's okay for a backup. It didn't seem such a big deal at the time, but I wouldn't like to buy one today.
No, No, it really is ridiculous. But anyway, this is what we have to face now. But if
Yep.
you are in the market looking for some new memory cards, do shop around. You may still be able to find a couple of places selling older prices. But yeah, I don't know how long this price hike is going to be last. There, people
Well,
may say that it's going to be a long-term thing because what's happening in the AI industry at the moment. Yeah, we just don't know.
maybe if the AI bubble bursts, there'll be lots of surplus storage and surplus RAM, and it'll all be in a fire sale, and we can get it cheap. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah,
I wouldn't count on that though.
I would not. I would not. So if
No.
you manage to score something relatively cheap for your camera, better buy it now and don't wait
What's
on it because the price might still going up in a few months' time.
what's your preferred brand for memory cards, Jimmy? Or do you not have a
I do
favorite?
actually, because we're talking about MFT today. Might as well bring that in as well. I'm more familiar with the Olympus/Ohm system cameras when it comes to SD card specs, because from what I know that since about 2015, all the Olympus cameras and now Ohm system cameras are using very fast UHS-2 spec memory card features. So not only it has a very fast read speed, but write speed, more importantly, write speed is being employed in all the cameras. So since EM1 Mark II, the write speed has always been one of the fastest, if not the fastest in the industry when it comes to SD card write speed. So that means that if you have the fastest UHS-2 card, you will be able to benefit from faster burst speed at shooting and clearing the buffer a lot quicker. When I say that, that means that you really have to use the V90 cards, the UHS-2 V90, which are capable of 280 or 290 megabit per second or above. I think at the moment it tops out about 300. And I think the Olympus camera is managed on average about 250 to 260 megabit per second. And that's industry leading. All the other cameras, from what I saw, the test reports from another website who used to do a lot of these tests, even though they say UHS-2 card slots, but they're not actually having the same speed. A lot of them simply have V60 card speed, so which means 180, 200 maximum. So you're not gaining that speed even you have a V90 card. So that's something to know about.
So you would always get UHS-2 cards, would you, just in case you need to shoot bursts or video? I'm a bit cheap. I've got a mixture. So I've got some UHS-2 cards, but I tend to go cheap and use UHS-1 in some cameras that don't really need the speed.
Another way looking at it as well, because I shoot a lot, and not only just the write speed about the operational side of it within the camera, but also after you shoot, it's a lot quicker to download the images. So the speed difference is significant, actually. You think about the UHS-1 cards, the tops out 95 megabit per second. So if you got a UHS-2 V90 cards, you go to 300, it's 3 times quicker. So if you got a 64 gigabyte worth of data, if you want to upload it to the library, the speed is significant because that copying 64 gigabyte using a 95 megabit per second card compared to 300 megabit per second card, it makes a big difference there. I can actually upload all the 64 gig, 120 gig within like 8 minutes, 10 minutes or so. And UHS-1 card, which I used to shoot about, and it would take twice as long, 3 times as long. So it would give me half an hour, 25 minutes before I can empty the card. So it is quite a big difference there. Yeah.
So do you prefer SanDisk or Lexar, or don't you care much about the manufacturer?
I do care about manufacturers. I think you can call me a brand snob, but I think that
you're a brand snob.
but I do think when it comes to memory cards, the bigger brand tends to carry a bit more trust in terms of reliability, and also a lot of the higher end series cards, they do carry an additional features which a lot of memory cards will offer you, like free recovery softwares and things like that as well. Like SanDisk, for instance, will have that. Lexar also have that, which has got a free software comes with it. I think Manfrotto Tough Card and Sony Tough Cards are also doing the same thing as well. They give you software to recover potential lost datas and things like that.
I think I read a story that Sony has temporarily halted memory card production.
I think all to do with the shortage. I think it's the prices and things. Yeah,
I think so.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, everywhere is fighting for these memories now, and which is annoying to say the least, because I think that I'm just about time for me to upgrade some of the cards now, because I've been shooting for them for a long time, and I also have a replacement schedule for all my memory cards as well, because the amount of things
Oh,
I
do you?
do. Yeah, I tend to replace them
Just precaution.
every 4 years, because once memory
Right.
goes, it goes like suddenly, and you just
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
no idea what's going to happen to it. So
No.
yeah, so that's at the moment I'm gonna have to think deep and hard about buying new memory cards, because it's so expensive, and I think I just come into this unfortunate time at the moment to replace my cards.
So what capacity cards do you get?
I think in general I'll take 64, maybe 128. I don't go any bigger than that. Yeah.
So quite small. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I
Oh.
always use smaller cards to fill them up. I put next like a different card to it, and rotate them, and that will extend the longevity of the card, the life of the card. And also, I don't always bank on one card to store everything, because, like I said, if anything happens to it, I lose everything. So
Well, that's the trouble with going on a holiday, isn't it? You take how many memory cards do you take, and do you use the same ones for the whole break? I've got a 256 gig integral here that I never use. I don't know whether I'd ever need 256, but it's only UHS-1, so it's a bit of an odd thing. Huge capacity, but not that fast.
No,
Interesting.
Good luck with downloading all the 256 gig to your computer.
Oh yeah.
It would take a long time.
I haven't got anything to download it onto, because my SSDs are pretty full.
That's another thing, right?
So I mean, I don't know what other people do. My strategy at the moment is to use SSDs for stuff I work on all the time.
Yeah.
But I archive stuff on hard disks.
Yes.
It just seems, seems to be the most cost-effective way of doing it. But it does mean that though I've got all the shots I've ever taken archived on hard disk,
Yeah.
I tend to cull out my everyday image stock just to keep the storage space down on SSDs.
Yeah.
But I've not lost anything. It's just where you keep your stuff. But I'd use all SSDs if I could afford it. But
yeah. Well, I'm the same. That's why I still buy hard disks, the physical hard disks, and just because I use them for archiving, and I do have a lot of stuff to archive because I shoot video as well. So video archive is they are big, Unfortunately, they are so big.
Of course.
Right. So we talked a lot about just the introduction to something that we want to discuss today, and of course the main topics about MFT, the return of MFT, so to say. We just but earlier, for those who just joined us, we talked a little bit about PureRAW 6. For us, I think that most of us MFT shooters would more or less default to the DxO as the kind of like a primary choice for denoising, because they do a really good job at it. If you haven't used it or tried it before, please do try. I'm gonna put maybe I could put a link down there for a trial if you want to go and have a look at it. It's going to be fun. So let's talk a little bit about MFT now. The reason I set up today's title, The Return of MFT, is because of a lot of recent movements within the industry that gave me this idea. I personally think that way. Rod may have something else to say about it.
I like just you can convince me, Jimmy. You can convince me.
I would convince Rod about it.
Yeah.
Right. First of all, some news coming from Panasonic. I know that you may have read something about a recent interview by from Panasonic's executive talking about the future of MFT. They basically saying that yes, we are still committed to MFT. So that's at least one good news. they haven't given it up. But it also say that there's no solid product kind of hint that there's going to something new coming on the horizon. But at the same time, they did mention something about like what kind of thing they would like to see on MFT. I think they're going to concentrate on something slightly smaller and more travel-friendly bodies. Whether that's going to signal something along the line with the OGM series or something, I'm not too sure.
Mm.
But know a thing or two about Panasonic's been reskinning their products for the past few years. And technically, since G9 Mark II and the GX7, there aren't really any new Micro Four Thirds camera from Panasonic.
No. I mean, I think Panasonic reskinned the G90 or G95, depending on which territory you're in, to the G97. So they might do something similar with the GX model, like a GX9. That could become the GX 9.5, or I don't know. But it would be nice, even if Panasonic only relaunches one of its kind of smaller rectangular mirrorless cameras. That would be cool. I think they'd still do well today. They've aged pretty well. The GX8 is quite big, but the GX9 is quite dinky.
Yes, but the second-hand prices on the GM1 and GM5. I mean, Rod saw the prices on MPB just going ridiculously high. Yeah. So it would not surprise me if Panasonic does come back and suddenly say, "Okay, I'm going to relaunch the GM series." Maybe a reskin version of it, having a USB-C port instead of the micro USB. It's a little bit of spec bump, maybe.
I guess it's going to depend on whether they can get the components people expect in a modern camera into a body that small. Does it have IBIS, the GM1?
No.
You see, this is the thing. I think they might have to go a bit more recent with the bodies to give people something with IBIS.
You think so, though, but the Fujifilm X-M5 also didn't have any IBIS, and it was selling like hotcakes. So, and I think form factor wins when it comes to like a pocketable mirrorless cameras. And if Panasonic does decide to do it, an £800 price bracket may actually still work.
Well, we mustn't forget that Panasonic still makes the G100D.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is not my favorite camera.
But
it is cheap.
But having said that, even though I say that £800 was still the bracket that will work, and when you consider now the XM5 street price is going down to about £750, £800, would you buy let's say a GM1 or a Fujifilm XM5? Yeah. I know the XM5 is bigger than the GM1 or GM5 for that matter, but one is APS-C, which is the larger sensor. One's a Micro Four Thirds. Both will have no IBIS. And both won't have an EVF, so you have to shoot like a point-and-shoot cameras, like just relying on the back screen. I think in terms of form factors and features, they're very equivalent, even though this is like, 12 years old now, 13 years old?
Sorry, remind me, you're comparing the XM5 with
XM5 with the
XM5
GM5.
With the GM5.
With the GM5 or GM1, yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think GM5 and GM1 are perhaps going a bit too far back for Panasonic, but I think they might look at the GX9 and think, could we do that again? And I think as well they would not want to launch something with or with video specs that weren't reasonably contemporary, which probably requires a bigger body itself, just for heat dissipation. For circuitry and what have you. So I don't know. I think I don't think Panasonic would be swayed by the used prices of the GM1 and GM5 at the moment, because we both know what it's like. Somebody with about 1 million followers says they like it. Yeah. Then about half of those people try and buy one. The price goes through the roof. Then next week the craze is over and it's something else. So I think Panasonic might be a bit cautious.
They are, but at the same time, pricing is the key here, right? But once if they do launch a product, that means the second-hand market will collapse, and that's for sure. Because at the moment, it's about supply and demand. Everyone wants one, but there aren't many around. That's why the price is so high. But when there's new stock coming in, which is the same camera, even though it's the same camera, things could be very vastly different when it comes to the second-hand market.
I don't think Panasonic would attempt to sell the GM1 and GM5 with those specs they had originally today. And I don't think they would upgrade the internals just to relaunch it. I think they would rather go with something like the GX9 and then just reskin it, because the
Yeah.
GX9's technology is
Yep.
really still quite adequate today.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the
yeah,
GM1
yeah.
and GM5, that's a tougher
Well,
call.
it is a tougher call. I mean, obviously, like without IBIS, it's really hard to shoot any video anyway. I mean, this is one thing that I always say about the XM5. As good as it is in terms of video spec,
Yeah.
but you can't really shoot handheld because that guy doesn't have any IBIS. It has digital stabilization, but it's not really effective at all. So like, I
No.
wouldn't really video using the XM5 unless they put in a tripod or the gimbal. So
Yeah.
that would be the same for this in essentially.
Yeah.
So I think for it to resell it, if they really want to upgrade the spec, for instance, they probably have to put hybrid AF now, so no longer contrast detect AF, and in this day and age, and they may have to at least 4K 30, even though they may not have 4K 60, so they will have to bump it up as well.
Judging by what Panasonic's done so far, they won't do that.
Hmm.
They'll find a camera that's modern enough that they don't have to. And I think that's got to be the GX. No, it's not.
No, I understand. Yeah.
I don't think it's Panasonic being cynical. I think they're just very carefully choosing which cameras to relaunch, because the G97 relaunch,
Yeah.
internally it's just the same, and it's perfectly adequate at that price point.
Oh, yeah.
They've done things like the USB port. They
Yep.
did not upgrade anything internally. Can I think of another example? Not immediately, but I do think if Panasonic were to do the same with a compact MFT camera,
Yeah.
they would base it around the GX9 for the same reason. They don't have to do anything. Just
No.
put a USB-C port on,
No.
change your rear screen so it looks different, and
Well,
start selling it again.
I do sincerely hope that they would do something a little bit more braver and a bit more creative than that. But the thing is, I mean, like the reason like I said that is because these things are cute, and I think this really showcased what MFT can be, and in terms of form factor, nothing can beat this kind of size, and when it comes to interchangeable cameras, I know you can have the Pentax Q, but that's not that's like a compact tiny sensors.
I see. I would argue that the GX9 is really not a whole lot bigger.
No, well, it is about 30% bigger in
I don't know. Is it
volume.
as much as that? Is it as much as that?
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit thicker and taller and wider.
Okay. I know the
Yeah.
GX8 is a big old beast, but the GX9 was smaller.
Yeah. I mean, Olympus had a pretty slim camera as well. Yeah, I think it's called a Pen Mini at one point, and
Yes, yeah.
that is basically Olympus answers to the GM series or the GX series. So they just wanted something very compact, but that only lasted for a couple of years, and before long they went back to the EPL and the EP series. So that kind of mini lines has kind of disappeared.
I was just looking at B&H on prices for the Lumix G100D. 680 with a lens and a memory card and a bag. That's pretty cheap.
Yeah, that's not
I don't
bad.
know what it is. No, it's not. I mean, there's no IBIS, and I don't think DSR design scales down too well. I think that'd be better as a kind of boxy rangefinder camera, but
Yeah.
I think it'd be quite cool if Panasonic were to do a version of that. Without as a kind of vlogging tool.
Yeah, vlogging tool.
I'm sorry. But did I just say a bad word?
I really, one thing I do hate about any camera makers, I mean any, like trying to launch a vlogging camera, and most of them don't have IBIS, which really kind of annoy me. Really annoys me.
I mean, it's like Canon's APS-C mirrorless camera range. It's only the R7 that's got IBIS, but it does try to market all of them as like storytelling cameras. But you can't tell much of a story when the whole field of view is bouncing around and jiggling.
Oh, it's
just
horrible.
It is. So I think and good as my EOS R8 is for video, it's a very good video camera, but with no IBIS, it's a tripod camera or a gimbal camera. It's not a vlogging camera.
No, well,
Vlogging.
Same as the XM5. XM5 is marketed
Yeah.
for content creators as a vlogging cameras. It has a dedicated vlogging mode in the menu,
Yes.
but it's got no IBIS. So, you know, I try to vlog with these things. It's impossible. It's just shaking all over the place.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
I think perhaps Fujifilm's idea is you're going to put it on a mini tripod and put it on the table while you're at the cafe, so you can do your presentation and show your cupcakes with product showcase mode.
Product showcase. Yeah.
Sorry, Jimmy, I'm trying to push all your buttons at once here.
Just have a little asterisk notes there. Don't walk with this camera. Yeah. But anyway, so that's Panasonic. You know, like at least we know that they are still thinking about MFT, and so there will be some movement from that end, and that's for sure. When it is, no one knows whether it's going to be this year or next year. But hopefully, sooner than later, that we still kind of like want to hear something, or at least witness some commitment from Panasonic that they are still working on something on the MFT side of it. But other than that, let's go to OM System. And OM System, really, in the last 3 to 4 years, I think really they are the main players in the MFT space. And, because they don't actually have any other spaces they're in at the moment. So it's not surprising. But it's good to see OM System is busy. And they have launched quite a few products that is fairly successful. The OM3, the lenses they released recently, all been sold out, you know, for the first couple of batches. And now they're more widely available now. And it shows that the demands are there, and also there are a lot of people for the very first time trying MFT just because of the couple of products that OM System has launched. In particular, the OM3 camera has caught quite a lot of attentions in the last 12 months. Many of the people who've been shooting exclusively on the full frame and APS-C is giving it the first try on the OM3. So that is good to see. From what I know, and obviously, you know my position that I would not be able to disclose anything if I know anything. But the fact is, I don't know at the moment. But I do know they're working on something new. But the particular launch time, I'm not entirely sure whether it's going to be like end of next year or next year. I'm not entirely sure. But there will be a new camera coming out. So that's exciting, that's for sure. No one knows what that is at the moment yet. Whether it's going to be a compact cameras, whether it's going to be a new pen cameras, or in fact a replacement of the OM line, whether it's going to be OM10 or OM1 Mark III. At the moment, no one really knows. So that's going to be exciting. At least we know that OM System is actively developing something new. So that's good. But I think, to me, many of you may have already seen my video recently about these Chinese companies. So I think the rise of these Chinese camera makers certainly is going to create an impact overall, you know, in terms of the MFT space, because at the moment, you can see that there are only 2 available open alliances that any camera or any company can join, whether it's going to be L-mount or MFT. So you can see now that you can really see that now the Nikon Z is trying to be closed, you know, like Canon, you know, they're having a court case with Viltrox, trying to have a go at the third-party makers. So that has prompted a lot of these companies who are currently very successful, making a lot of money, to think about the future in long terms. What should they do? Should they, you know, join an alliance, having a spec, learn how to make cameras, and produce something that in-house, so eventually they can start selling their own line of camera and lenses as combinations, just like Canon, Nikon, and Sony, or any other brands that we know of. So this, to me, is what's coming. And believe me or not, I think within 10 years, we may starting to see quite a few Chinese camera brand cameras coming out.
I've got to wait 10 years, Jimmy. You never told me it's going to be 10 years. Oh.
Well, you know, when I say 10 years, this is a time frame that I will confidently say that, you know, they are good enough to use. Okay. And I'm thinking that we'll probably start seeing new cameras coming from China within the next year or two. And I think the very first one you're going to see from them will be the MFT cameras. First of all, because you already know that Sony, which is the company that recently joined MFT platform as a member, have already confirmed the R&D that they have invested for new MFT cameras. And they also at the same time for that announcement, saying that they already working on a 1-inch 80 megapixel camera. I'm not entirely sure how feasible that is. A 1-inch sensor with 80 megapixel. I don't think that sensor exists at the moment.
It might be like these Amazon cameras. So it's
Yeah.
actually 10 megapixels, but
They just
super
upscale it. Just upscale it.
Yeah,
Just upscale
yeah.
it. But regardless, I mean, if it's 1 inch, it's still a big enough sensor. And even if I can get a raw file out of it and at lower megapixel, it's still going to be quite a bit better than what they previously produced. But with MFT, I think in particular, I think that's going to be interesting to see what sort of camera they're going to produce. And this will be really their first crack at it. And not only this company, Sondian, is doing it, well, I'm not sure how many of you know YOLO Live. And I think Rod knows about YOLO Live, which is a live streaming company who currently makes a bunch of live streaming cameras. They have recently introduced a new camera with a Micro Four Thirds mount. So the idea is that they're going to use a bigger sensor for better low light capabilities, so you can stream in a much higher quality, more professional level quality for streaming or presentations. That's interesting because they're now in a space not only making live streaming cameras, but they're making lenses. So they have already developed an 18mm f1.4 fully autofocus Micro Four Thirds lens. So that is going to be exciting because it's MFT. Of course, that all of us can buy it and use it. And 18mm 1.4, it's a pretty fast lens if you give me. So like, I think it's going to be very exciting to see what kind of quality it is. And I'm currently waiting for them to send me a copy. So like, as soon as I get it, I'm gonna let you know how good it is. So I can't wait for the live stream camera and also the lens to come out, so I can actually show you exactly what they look like. And maybe I will finally change my current setup with the EM1X and my 17 1.2 to the YOLO Live camera, and also the 18mm 1.4. I think you're going to get similar sort of results like this. If the AF lives up to my expectation, it will be a lot like this, like very good AF, and very smooth AF. I'm hoping to see that. So if that's the case, I think it'll be very exciting. And that's the second camera. Yep.
Well, no, certainly. So if it does happen as you think it might, Jimmy, perhaps we will see a few more MFT cameras coming from China. But it is curious that it's curious, I think, that Japanese manufacturers have had it their own way for so long.
Yeah.
And I don't really know why that is. I don't know whether it's public perception or whether they're just very good at marketing cameras. But it's interesting that almost all the cameras we use today, if not made in Japan, or at least designed in Japan, or from Japanese companies.
Yes.
So
yes,
we'll see. I think DJI might do something, Jimmy. We'll have to wait and see.
I think so. But there's another company that I haven't mentioned yet is Yongnuo. Yongnuo also. If you all know, Yongnuo actually did produce the very first Chinese-made my MFT camera about 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
So, yes, they have made one.
Okay.
They even made the Mark II, but even the Mark II has already been about 4 or 5 years old now, so it's already quite old. I did speak to them, and they said Mark III is currently in development, so that's exciting. So I don't know when they're going to launch it. And so what they did was, maybe people may know that they make, if I can hold on to one of them, they do make autofocus my MFT lenses. So many of you may already seen some of them, the 42.5, the 18 millimeters, 17 millimeters, can't remember which one it was. They also have a zoom lens. Yeah, the very first autofocus zoom lens from China is actually from Yongnuo. So I had the 12 to 40 f2.8 to f4 zoom lens from them. The quality is not comparable to any of the current MFT, but at least they made one, and it's actually fully functional. The AF actually works pretty well. It just let down by the image quality side of it, but at least they make one. So I'm pretty sure if they make a Mark II, they might improve the optical formula. They might be a lot better when it comes to image quality. But this company is known for making MFT stuff, even though you may not be aware of the existence or the brand. But Yongnuo has been making MFT cameras and also MFT lenses. So they already told me they are working on the Mark III of the camera. So I will be keen and very interested to see when it comes out, because they already have the experience on it. So with the now 4 or 5 years on, like they may have gathered enough experience on making other lenses to be able to make some system that is worthwhile trying, at least, because the previous 2 generations of cameras were a big letdown in terms of AF performance and everything like that. But they were using some kind of weird operating system. They use Android, believe me or not. They use Android as the backend system, and then and as a camera. Yeah, so you can imagine that. Yeah, someone trying to make an Android camera, but it's a mirrorless base.
It's been done before, and it's never tended to work terribly well. I think Samsung tried it, didn't it? And Zeiss, of course.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
But it's never worked out particularly well. So
It's quite funny. Someone just mentioned that you need to come with a bit better with English sounding names. Yes, I do think
yes,
so.
yes.
Yes. Yeah, not many people can pronounce the name, and unfortunately, and unless you do know Mandarin.
That's why I never talk about them. I can write about them, but I can't talk.
Yeah. So we do have some players already existing in China, and so the fact that is now the market is bubbling up with the current cases that big boys are trying to sue these third-party lens makers. I personally think it's a push for them, to think about alternatives.
It might be, but honestly I do think the Nikon Viltrox thing is not. It's not a sign of things to come. I think it's just an isolated incident. I think it'll blow over. That's I could be wrong. I'm not. I don't think it means the end of third-party lenses.
Oh no, it won't be. But I'm very positive that there's going to be some sort of outer court settlements or agreements about, and also future royalties, in terms of sales and things.
Even if Viltrox has to do a little hardware tweak to make its lenses agreeable to Nikon, I'm sure it can be done.
But it's pretty evident, though. If you think about the cases of even between Sigma and Nikon, you can see that what happened after their own cases many years ago. You can see that there are now not many Z-mount Sigma lenses, and they're available.
I think there's I think perhaps though Sigma has decided its loyalties lie with L-mount.
They are now,
yes.
Yes.
And Sony as well. So what you say is correct. Sigma doesn't mind making lenses for Sony, but it doesn't do it for Nikon. But maybe who knows what conversations have gone on behind the scenes.
No.
So,
but the thing is, you can see that Sigma obviously is a business as well, and if whatever they agree before, and obviously no one knows how much they have to pay Nikon for making Z-mount lenses. They certainly not focus on that at the moment. They're focusing on their own, like what Rod said, the L mount, the E mount, and X mount, which is for Fujifilm. So people who are not people are not bothered about it. They're making lenses for them, and people who are bothered, they're not.
So one way or another, we might see certain brands getting better third-party lens choices than others.
Yes.
We had a conversation about that a few sessions ago, didn't we?
Yes, we did, and that is reason why I think that this push may actually resulting on some of these camera lens makers are thinking about maybe making an inroad into camera making. Like the likes of Viltrox, they're big enough now. I'm pretty sure they have some resources that could produce some sort of development in the camera side of it. But I think ultimately they're going to be probably like what Sigma does, have being known for lens making. But at the same time, they might make some cameras just like Sigma did. You never know. But at the same time, you can see all the other new companies I just mentioned. They're already making cameras. And what any company eventually want to do is not by making lenses for other people. They want to make it for themselves. So if they can one day have their own brand, that will be the ultimate success for a company when it comes to within the camera industry.
Yeah, unless they feel the lenses are low risk and cameras are high risk. As things to make. The topic of 1-inch sensors came up a few minutes ago, didn't it?
Yes.
And And that interests me because we have this idea that 1-inch sensors are quite big, but
Yeah.
actually it's a bit of a swizz, because you imagine, don't you, that a 1-inch sensor
Yep.
is going to be 1 inches across the diagonal, but
Yep.
they're not. They are, according to an article I've got in another tab, 0.63 inches, so a bit over half an inch. And it's because these smaller sensor sizes all derive from CRT days, cathode ray tube image capture devices, where you might have a 1-inch tube,
Yep.
but the sensor would be considerably smaller. So the sensor makers have carried this forward so that a 1-inch sensor is actually quite a lot smaller than you think. I've got the measurements here, actually. Let me see if I can tell you exactly what the measurements are. So 13 millimeters wide by 8.8 high. So considerably smaller than Micro Four Thirds.
Yeah.
So I think at the moment people are putting them on the same level, but they're really not. So there seem to be a lot of people in the press and on YouTube who are very favourable towards 1-inch sensors because they're quite big, but they're really down on MFTs. It's such a small format.
Well, they
But
are big
MFTs
compared to phone sensors.
Well, 1-inch sensors are big compared to phone sensors, but small compared to MFT. So it's quite important to kind of figure out where they are in the scheme of things. So it made me think when I got my DJI Pocket 3, because they're quite small, and you think, how is there a 1-inch sensor in that little camera unit on top of the gimbal head? And the fact is that the sensor is in fact not 1 inch across the diagonal at all. It's just using the old system of measurement to make it sound bigger than it is.
Yeah, that's
dodgy,
always it
isn't
is,
it?
right?
I know.
That's the marketing for you. That's marketing.
I know.
For you.
And it's like phone sensors where they use a fraction to indicate the size. So you might in the old days have seen one camera's got a 1/2.3 inch sensor, and then another one's got a 1/3. And you think, oh, the 1/3's got to be bigger, hasn't it? No, it's smaller. Anything to cloud the issue.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So Chuck got a comment here. Just want to bring it up here. And so I'm curious how Canon still has the highest market share when it locks out third party and more entry level camera. What do you think about that?
Chuck, we're all curious. Nobody knows. I think it's sheer weight of marketing and brand awareness, and some fairly canny pricing. Because take an example, the EOS R100.
Yeah,
that's the cheapest mirrorless model in the lineup. It is pretty cheap.
Yep.
The fact is that Canon often uses really old tech to produce really cheap cameras. Nobody seems to notice. A few people call them out, but people don't really notice. And that's how it does it. So, I mean, let's see what the EOS R100 is in the US. Let's have a quick look.
It is interesting.
It's going to be pretty cheap.
It is interesting to mention like market share, and because at the moment that Canon and Sony literally dominate, and Nikon is third place, a solid third at the moment, but don't know for how long before Fujifilm overtake them, and because Fujifilm is growing very rapidly over the last couple of years, and you never know, and. On the other hand, MFT used to occupy the mirrorless market, and of course now because everyone in the mirrorless market, so the market share overall has shrunk. In fact, I don't think the number has shrunk that much. It's only because everybody's entering the same market. So that's when it happens, when everyone in the same space. Panasonic is roughly holding on about 3 to 4% as a company. Micro Four Thirds is within them, and so I'm not sure in terms of Micro Four Thirds what's the kind of global percentage at the moment. Where together with OM system, I would say between 1 to 2%. So it's not really a lot. But things could change though, and if Chinese company starting to have a lot of these MFT cameras starting to bubble up everywhere internally, domestically, because that's one thing about the overall market is that is currently is lack of any sort of affordable solutions for any just average users, I would say, beginner users, people who don't necessarily need the latest and the greatest, people who don't necessarily want anything that's ultra complicated. They just want something that point and shoot, just like the good old days. And MFT is provide very good propositions, especially in China. Is the sensor is big enough to produce very good quality images, and if they somehow made it to an idiot-proof camera operating system, which I believe the Chinese are pretty good at making, and it's evident by the rise of Chinese EV, for instance, the electrical vehicles in the last 10 years, is a very good demonstrations. What if Chinese make something from ground up? At the moment, what I'm suggesting is because you think about Nikon, Canon, and also to some extent, look at Panasonic and also OM System, they are basically growing up as in terms of history. They're growing from like old technologies and old cameras, and they digitize them, if I can say that, into
very harsh.
Yeah. Well, they did. If you think about DSLR, they basically put a sensor just replacing film from an SLR, and the overall mechanism hasn't changed at all. Right, you can still use the old EF lenses. There's no difference when it comes to the technologies. Yes, mirrorless is revolutionary by removing the mirror house altogether. But in terms of operating systems, the fundamentals, and the whole integration between the chipsets and the actual coding itself, is still very old school. And I have spoken to a lot of the camera engineers. Over the years, they told me they still use very old style coding for their menu system and the operation. So that shows, they are still kind of stuck in history. What if, like exactly what Chinese has been doing for EVs is that they starting to looking things from a fresh perspective. What if I started from ground up now? I don't have any history to fall back on. I don't have any old technologies that I have developed in the past.
Well,
Yeah.
I think what we're going to have to do, Jimmy, is you and I are both going to have to design a camera from the ground up and bring it to our live stream so that we can see which one gets the votes.
Yeah.
I think there are some issues. It depends on whether you want any new camera to be packed with computational AI, or whether you want it to be a back to basics camera. Because if a back to basics camera hardly needs any circuitry at all.
That's true.
So it depends what we're going to ask for. And I think as well, it's easy to compare modern mirrorless cameras with smartphones and say smartphones are much smarter. But then you have to consider how much the processors in smartphones cost and add to the price.
Yes.
And if you put those in a camera, what would it do to the cost of the camera? So there are all sorts of things to consider, I think. We're going to have to do some sort of poll on the kind of camera that any notional Chinese maker ought to make to fill a gap that we think is there in the market.
Well, I mean, at this moment, I personally think that what they're going to do something that is that appeal to the masses, not necessarily for us dedicated photographers. That's what I'm thinking. They're going to bring something that is cute and cuddly and fashionably looking, and sell it at relatively low price to attract them to gain the market share. I think that's what they're going to do. And so they're not looking at something that is like the fastest, can have blackouts free EVF. Yeah. They're not looking at stack sensors. They're going to look at some fairly basic stuff. But at the same time, they can sell it dirt cheap within China, and they're hoping that the domestically they're going to have a bunch of users there and grow from there.
Well, if you look at prices over here, and I'm going to stick to the States for the moment. If you look at the price of the Canon EOS R100, since we're talking about why Canon has this kind of market share, B&H will sell you one for $580 with a lens. Yeah, that is pretty cheap. I've seen them cheaper than that in the UK as well. Now, a slight sidestep here. I do get a bit fed up with when people complain there's not enough innovation and development in MFT cameras.
Yeah.
But nobody calls out Canon for what it does with its cheaper models. So in order to make this EOS R100 as
Yep.
cheap as it is,
Yep.
you're talking about a camera that can only shoot 4K in crop with a
Yep.
big crop. And it also, this is a camera with phase detect autofocus that it can't use shooting 4K video.
Yep.
I think this sensor, I'm trying to think back to when we first saw it. I think this could go back as far as the EOS R100. This is not the EOS M100 and the M series cameras. I think this goes back as far as cameras like the in the DSLR range. What would it be? The 650D maybe. Yes, or somewhere around there. This is old tech. This is how Canon makes a camera so cheap. So it annoys me that Canon gets away with this stuff and it doesn't get called out.
No.
But if Home System doesn't upgrade a camera for 3 years, everyone's
screaming,
seething, screaming. Yes, yeah.
Well, I mean, one thing I have to say, you know, just to relating to what you just said there. I mean, I think both Canon and Nikon, two of these companies are perhaps, you know, like the brand itself carries a lot of weight to the photographic community. You know, whether you like it or not, I think when people mention about Canon and Nikon, you just instantly know that it's cameras. You know, like that's globally recognized, and that carries a lot of things.
Or photocopiers.
Photocopiers. But you know, but at the same time, for people who may not be in the photographic world, you know, if suddenly, let's say you mentioned Panasonic, people just associate TV. Is it a TV or microwave? You know, like
bread makers.
Yeah, you know, something like that. And people sometimes talk about Samsung. You know, like they wouldn't think about photographic stuff. You mentioned about Fujifilm. Do they still sell films? You know, like, people not necessarily think about cameras. But Nikon and Canon, these two companies have the brand itself does carry a lot of weight.
The weight of history behind
the
them.
weight of history. So I think that's why, you know, people still buy their stuff. You know, when something Canon just brings out, people say, oh, it has to be a good camera, right? It's Canon, you know, and it just, I think, build up from the heritage of the company brand itself. We just had a recent discussion this morning, right? Remember Nikon? We talked about Nikon this morning, and they're not really doing that great financially. We know that for a number of years now, but this year in particular is even worse. So I just hope that Nikon is going to be okay. But anyway, we talked a lot about that. You know, you and I both agree that Nikon makes good cameras and good lenses.
I think so, yeah.
Without a doubt, I think they do make good stuff. But their marketing is really not up to par in modern standards. You know, like they're looking at the influencers markets and how to utilize, you know, the social media, for instance. They're not really, I don't know whether they bother about it, but that's obviously they're not really active in that space. Unlike Canon and Sony in particular, they kind of almost pioneering the social media advertising all by themselves. And look at what they are now.
It's difficult to be entirely sure, isn't it? Because if you go by what you see on YouTube, what happens on YouTube is you watch one video on a Sony and that's all it shows you forever. So it could be that these Nikon influencers are out there, but we haven't watched their videos. I don't know. But my feeling is that Nikon hasn't really got a handle on that kind of marketing in a way that Sony has or Canon has.
No.
I don't know why Canon does quite as well as it does. Just reputation, perhaps. Maybe it does. It does well on the domestic market. I don't know.
It could well be. But on the same note, you can see how successful Fujifilm has been ever since, you know, the X100 became viral camera, but they tap onto it. They tap onto it and continue to build on it. And you know that's what marketing should be. When you get the chance, you really have to jump on it and really trying to capitalize it. And they did for the last couple of years, and you can see how much they've grown.
Or create a brand with a personality or a mission. That people can identify.
Yeah.
This side towards screen wants Nikon to revisit
the J series.
the Nikon one. I've still got one.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, with that 1 inch sensor that isn't really 1 inch. It's
Yeah.
decent camera, but
It
ahead
is.
of its
It is.
time. Before
But
it's
so like let's jump back to the conversations here. I
yeah.
think that
Sorry, Jimmy. Yeah,
no, it's fine. It's because of that. I think that's why I think the MFT, especially from the Chinese side, may stand a huge chance as of now. And the Chinese is a growing community, is a growing market. Yes, they are buying a lot of foreign stuff. They're buying Japanese brand, buying Leica, because a lot of them are rich. But at the same time, a lot of them aren't rich. And the living standard is not as high as many people may see. If you go to the
well,
rural areas in China, outside of the main city center, you are starting to find out exactly what the living standard are.
can they undercut the EOS R100?
I'm pretty sure they can if they want to make it. I keep using EV as an example because it's a prime example for that. You can see that they can make a car equally good, may not be driving as good as the like the traditional car makers like BMWs or whatever, but they make them a lot cheaper, and that's what's the proposition at the moment. People are buying Chinese EV because of the price, whether you like it or not. I know we can have a whole discussion about capitalizing whatever, it's just how much they can make things, and in the camera it could do exactly the same impact. They could make cameras that is so cheap, lenses actually. Yeah, let's go back to the lenses. They make lenses are so much cheaper than the mainstream cameras makers or lens makers do.
But then what if they wiped our favorite brands off the face of the earth? We'd be upset, wouldn't we?
Oh, they won't. They won't. Trust me, they won't. It'd just be another competitors out there, and just give us another choice. Look, Viltrox. No one heard of new Viltrox 5-6 years ago, and look what they are now. And if you look at Sigma,
court.
yeah, in court. But look at Sigma. When I first started in photography, Sigma was a horrible brand. And the lenses weren't exactly great. They were cheap for sure. They were cheap. So people who can't afford the mainstream Canon or Nikon will go for Sigma at the time. And but look at what they are now. Some of their lenses are, even in my eyes, better than the originals.
But Sigma's almost done it the other way around. They've abandoned the cheap market in favor of the quality market.
Yes,
it's kind of the other way around.
It is. Well, but if you look at Viltrox, they aren't exactly the same. Of course, Viltrox, the last couple of years, they started to introduce the high-end lenses, which can compete with the best of the best. But the lower-end lenses were still very cheap, optically not quite as good, but they're cheap. Like they're still autofocused. They still got the metal built. And like for like, if you look at the mainstream players, their own offerings compared to what Viltrox has to offer, the lower-end market, Viltrox still stand for the values of in terms of value proposition. They're still way cheaper, built a lot better, and selling a lot cheaper. You may not get the same image quality, but it's doable. I mean, in my eyes, it's actually very respectable. If you're just doing like a day-to-day snap, you don't need to be professional kind of thing. It's perfectly fine for that purpose. And but if you're a professional, of course, then you probably start looking at the pro level series and higher end L series, G Masters, whatnot. Viltrox is now tapping into that market. And I think that market is what what Nikon is worried about, because they have that market exclusively if you're a Nikon user, right? And now suddenly Viltrox came in, and then they're selling the Pro series of lenses optically, probably about 95% there compared to Nikon lenses, but 95% of the quality for 50% of the price, and that's what's causing the red flag there.
I don't know. I think people buying pro Nikon lenses are probably going to stay with Nikon. I'm not sure. I think perhaps an issue for Nikon is the size of the lenses. They didn't seem to think that one through. They're all quite big.
But to address what you just said, though, Nikon user may use Nikon, and I would disagree on that point. I think the traditional Nikon users have been using Nikon as a brand for many, many years. Will probably stick with Nikon. But let's say like I bought the Nikon ZF because I like the camera, and I've been shooting with it professionally with it, and I had to have a couple of Nikon lenses. But for the past 12 months, I have been using Viltrox lenses, not because I'm reviewing them, just because I even bought a couple of them myself, just because they are good and they're cheaper. And for me, as a business, if I'm a pro user, I'm a business, why would I argue with money? You know, if I can get something that is cheaper, then it's almost as good. And then,
Jimmy, I think you should copyright that quote. I'm not going to argue with money.
well, who doesn't, right? You know, as a pro, you know, if you talk about pros are making a living out of it.
Oh, they're very hard-headed.
Yes.
Pros, it's very clear thinking financial decisions when you're a pro.
So that's the whole thing, right? You know, I think that's also one reason why Canon locked out the system, because you know they know they'll have a lot of pro users. So if the pros are jumping and buying cheaper lenses, and that means they're gonna not doing well in the lenses.
It is a bit of an issue. What bothers me most about Canon, I think, is that the pro stuff is extremely good as anybody else's pro stuff, but the cheaper consumer stuff is not all that great. I don't think. So if you buy into Canon as a professional, I think you'll be fine. If you buy into Canon as a consumer, then you either pay the money for the good stuff, or you put up with some of the limitations of the regular stuff.
Yeah.
I can't say much myself. I shoot with Sony cameras and Tamron lenses, so I'm not saying everyone should buy own brand lenses by any means. So I think the financial argument's a good one.
It certainly is. I mean, look, if I open my camera bags now and on my full frame, which is the Nikon full frame, and actually all Viltrox lenses, there's no Nikon lenses either in the bag. And
but you're fairly happy to shoot with primes though, aren't you? Whereas most average consumers would rather have a zoom, I suspect.
Yes, but haven't you heard? And a Typort has just announced a zoom lens and autofocus zoom lens, and also I think Laowa is also going to introduce a zoom lens. So they are coming.
Laowa did a manual focus ultra wide zoom.
Yes,
I can't remember. Was it the 12 to 24?
Something like that.
5.6?
Yes. They do have some.
Good, but
they do have some cine zoom lenses, and but
I think
the latest rumor is actually there is already rumor where people already leaked the images out, and is a autofocus zoom lens. So it's going to be interesting.
I think at the moment you can say that the Chinese makers are producing very good primes that are also cheaper.
Yes.
I don't think they're quite up there with zoom lenses.
No.
With the Japanese manufacturers or own brand makers.
Probably not. Well, like I already mentioned earlier about Yongnuo, they made the MFT zoom lenses, and I already said that the quality just isn't there. But who knows? Who knows? And if you look at the speed of developments as well, Chinese lens making in the last 10 years has jumped from manual focus to autofocus, from very, very cheap lenses to some really premium built lenses now, within a space of 10 years. That has taken Japan and European companies almost 30, 40 years to achieve. It's the speed that's astonishing in China, and that's why, like I said, like you never know. In 10 years' time, we may start to see the pro level cameras coming out from China.
Possibly, I think the Chinese are very good at working out what other people have done and doing it cheaper.
Yeah, and also, like I said, because they start from scratch, they're starting from scratch. They have nothing to worry about from the back, and then they write the code like from scratch, whatever system they want to use. They don't have to bother about what happened before. They're just looking forward, and I think that's difference between the Japanese company to some extent, European companies compared to Chinese company at the moment.
You know me, Jimmy. I think nothing's real until it's real. So I look forward to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, mark my word. I think this is a space to look out for. I'm not trying to promote them, and I mean, I love my cameras, I love my OM system stuff, but I think that they will be the next country to look out for when it comes to camera making. And sooner or later, you're going to start to see a bunch of cameras coming out. They may not be good. I can guarantee the first batch is going to be horrible. I can tell you that. And just like the EVs, the first batch of EVs from China was horrible. The range is horrible, build quality horrible. But look at where they are now, and they look to compete with the best one out there.
Jimmy, is Samsung Korean?
Yes, they're Korean. Yes, South Koreans.
Because yeah, so this side towards screen has mentioned the Samsung NX Mini. Those Samsung mirrorless cameras weren't bad. I had
I'm
an
just trying to bring
NX1
it up.
for a while. Yeah.
Yes, but they
So,
even collaborated with Pentax. Remember, the camera was based on the Pentax K10D.
oh, that, well, yeah, that, I think that was a different collaboration. You say based on the K10D, it was a K10D. They were the same
Reskinned.
camera. No,
Reskinned.
just same camera. I'm not really, I think maybe it's just the badge work was a bit different. Same camera, basically. No, the NXs though, they were interesting
Yeah,
mirrorless models.
I remember the NX series. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I think
I
one
was
of my
I was tempted to get one actually.
I think one of my colleagues still has an NX1.
Yeah,
And for a while as well, Samsung were dabbling with pro lenses, including those 70 to 200 f2.8 equivalent.
you know what?
So,
I think in some way, I think Samsung has given up the camera side a little bit too quickly. And it wasn't making
well,
money for them, and but I think they gave up just a bit too soon.
so just reminding myself what I did. So this was 2014.
Yeah,
It's a 28 megapixel APS-C mirrorless camera with a back
20,
illuminated
yeah.
sensor
I remember
and
28 was quite a big number back then.
and 4K video.
Yeah, yeah,
Who knew? 2014. So it is a shame. And with phase detect autofocus, it is a shame Samsung didn't continue. But I think at the time there was a certain amount of camera snobbery at work. You know.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
but I think they just didn't follow through with their whole kind of
yeah,
development. You know, if they
yeah.
have, they may still be around and probably pretty good as well. And you know, with the resources that Samsung has, I'm pretty sure they could make a dent in the industry. But yeah, they just given up.
One £1,400 on eBay, Jimmy, if you want one.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
god.
And you know what else has got? A top panel.
Ah, there you go, mate. There you go.
Perfect.
Top panel.
Yeah.
Top panel. Yeah.
So it is interesting what happened to Samsung. They probably got squeezed out
Yeah. Yeah.
unfairly, but yeah. So
So
there are camera makers outside Japan.
there
Or
there
there were.
is.
There
There
were.
is, and well, there is some still, you know, like the one I'm
Leica.
testing now from Leica
Leica.
and Pixie from France.
Oh,
And,
that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm testing their cameras at the moment. Yeah, interesting findings. I'll tell you a little bit more later. But yeah, I mean, there are some around, and everyone trying to make it big, of course, as a business. But I think one that stand the chance most is probably somewhere with the population, someone that will be able to produce in mass, in bulk, in also cheaply. And I think all points to China at the moment. India will probably, but I think India is probably still quite behind technologies wise, and Chinese stand a better chance in terms of making something like this. So hence my comment and today's topic: the return of Micro Four Third. I'm speaking of in general as a whole Micro Four Third market and also the platform itself. But I think majority of the sales and development would probably be driven by the Chinese market in the next few years. That's my prediction. Obviously, it can be wrong, but I think all the movement.
You're just hoping 5 years from now we'll forget you said that. And you'll
Yes,
get away with it.
yes, probably. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's looking good for the platform. But one thing I do think though, in the long term, is that just like the lens developments from China, they may start up with MFT. So we may see a rush in MFT development. We may see a boost in the MFT camera making within China in the next few years. But long term, I think these companies was probably still aiming for full frame or medium format eventually. So I think the long term strategy for this company is that they need to learn how to make cameras. So they join an alliance it's a cheap way to get into it, and once they master how to make them, they will start developing their own APS-C full frame or medium format cameras eventually. That will be the market. So while I think, optimistically, I'm saying, you know, the MFT will stand a good chance of having a little bit of revival, but I think over the long term, it's still going to point to the bigger sensors market. But we just have to see whether some of this company can become a bespoke company making Micro Four Thirds gear and want to continue to commit to it rather than follow the crowd and follow the trend and move on to the bigger sensor stuff. But at least in medium term, over the next 5, maybe 10 years, it's going to be MFT in China, and after that, who knows? It could well be something else altogether. But I think the DJI in particular, what Rod mentioned earlier, DJI is quite quiet at the moment, but they already have the technologies to make cameras. You know, they do.
DJI's already made an MFT gimbal camera.
They did actually have that. The Osmo, Osmo something, Osmo.
Yeah.
My friend has one.
And they've used MFT in drones, but they've never shown much inclination to make a camera, unless of course they decide that there should be a Hasselblad MFT.
Yeah, probably.
that was meant to be a joke, but you know, who knows.
Yeah, you never know. But DJI certainly has the money to do it. So if they really want to,
micro XCD. So
micro XCD. What if they make something? What if they make something like rangefinder style camera? You know, branded Hasselblad, but using a Micro Four Thirds mount, so a little bit more compact. And oh my god, that would probably do it, right?
Yeah, especially designed for vlogging, Jimmy. So no IBIS and no viewfinder.
Yeah.
No, but that would be quite cool. It'll never happen because Hasselblad's the wrong brand for a smaller sensor. But it'd be quite amusing to just dream about such a thing. Maybe I'll get busy in my 3D CAD software and work out what it should look like.
Yeah.
Who am I kidding? I'll latch something up in Photoshop.
Well, the thing is, you can see that DJI is diversifying, and as drone law has becoming more strict around the world, and the drone sales in terms of numbers are not as good as before. Well, they literally have the whole market to themselves. So in terms of growth, it's only down to how many people are going to buy the drones. So
and it's a bit awkward that even first and second generation drones were pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's quite difficult to improve on stuff that's already mature technology.
This is the reason why they're now heading towards the creative space, like the Pocket 3, the action cameras, and all that. They are spreading the eggs now quite a bit, and to tap into different markets. And they know they now have the creative markets back up, and quite strongly, because the Pocket 3 even today is still selling like hotcakes.
Well, if it's interesting, isn't it? We're getting slightly off topic, I guess, but if you look at something like the Sony ZV-1F, is that the one with the fixed focal length lens?
Which one?
So the little 1-inch sensor vlogging camera, the ZV-1F, I think it was. Let's have a look.
Oh, yeah.
ZV.
This side to a screen say that I would buy a Rod camera.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll have a chat with Hasselblad and see what we can work out.
Yeah.
So the ZV-1F. Let's have a look. That is how much does Sony want to sell that for? So that is so it's basically like the ZV-1. So imagine an R100 with no viewfinder and a flip out screen. £550 Sony wants, and it's a fixed focal length lens. So my argument is, why would you buy that and not a DJI Pocket 3? That is quite puzzling to me, because the Pocket 3 is cheaper, and it's cheaper, smaller, and on a gimbal with faster frame rates. Yeah. So I just had to get off my chest, Jimmy. I'm all right now.
But this is exactly what I'm saying. You know, like, and that's another kind of good example of DJI, which is a Chinese company, and when they enter the creative market, they start from ground up. You know, they're not thinking
Yeah.
about utilizing what they have and improve on it, which is exactly what camera makers are doing at the moment, including Sony, even though they are more of the forefront now in terms of creative stuff. And but their vlogging cameras are still based on their cameras.
Take some stuff off, change the name, and sell it to a different audience.
Product showcase, and then yeah.
But so this is something that would interest me if this were to happen, and it wouldn't necessarily have to be a Chinese company, but any camera making company. It seems to me that what Sony did was, we'll make a vlogging camera, we'll fiddle about with the camera we already make, and say it's for vlogging. But DJI presumably took the approach, if we're making a vlogging camera, it's got to be on the gimbal. So we make a gimbal camera. Completely different approach.
Yep. So I mean, that's the thing. I think that's the difference between different mentalities, and the more established company comes something who's completely new. When it's new, you just have to be brave, and hopefully you can make something that is going to work. And while the bigger companies, like any kind of Japanese company now, because they've all been around for a long time, they are more looking for a safer option most of the time. They want to make sure that whatever they make, conservative, right?
Very conservative, very cautious. And I think what we've got to bear in mind is the traditional camera audience now is quite small. Yeah. But the creator audience is very large. So, you know, any new camera, in order to sell in any great numbers, has to appeal to creators. And I don't think rebadging a mirrorless camera as a vlogging camera is enough. Yeah. It's enough. It's quite irritating, really.
Yeah. But speaking of which, though, you know, like I know we kind of tapped on that topic just ever so slightly earlier, just because I saw Victor Roman mention about the M43 go somewhere. I haven't stopped using it.
No. Well, quite.
And I think, you know, like when speaking about developing cameras from ground up, and you mentioned about computational stuff, I know at this moment in time, OM system cameras / Olympus cameras before that have a bunch of computation stuff that is fabulous. That's really good. And Panasonic is adapting a little bit of that in the latest generation of the cameras. But overall, you know, in terms of the development side of it, it's still very slow. You know, like we only recently see the live GND features on the OM system camera. We see the Starry Sky AF. We see, you know, but live composite, live bulb, this has been existed ever since, you know, like, I don't know, 2015, 2016. So it's been around for a while. If Chinese to make something like with that kind of caliber, it may not actually take them that long to do it, because they're quite good at computers and coding. So they may be able to tap into that kind of creative thinking and making something that they already have in terms of app developments. You know how many Chinese apps there are at the moment. You know, you look at the Google Play stores and even App Store from Apple. Majority of the games, social media, and even AI apps are all from China, and so they have the capabilities and the talent to do it. So if they are to develop something as a camera, they could infuse a lot of these experience for app writing into camera developments.
I mean, personally, I'm not a big fan of computational imaging. Not because I don't approve of it in principle, but because I don't find it useful. But I know that lots of people are very, very big fans.
Especially in the Asian market, you know, like something that I really hate is the beautify options in a lot of the Android phones as well. Now they have this beautify thing, basically smoothing out your skin and make you look slimmer, bigger eyes, whatever, you know, anything. Yeah, it's a very popular thing in Asia, and you know, something that none of the cameras actually currently offer in camera as a feature. I bet Chinese will make it. They will make it happen in a camera, beautify it. You know, when you photograph someone, a lady or a man, they will make them look like 10 years younger, make them look like two sizes smaller, and you know, I'm pretty sure they're gonna make something like that.
If you can get a filter that gives you more hair, that'd be cool.
I'm pretty sure they have that too. Yeah, get rid of the greys, and then it'll make you all black again.
Yeah.
But I think that's the difference. Though. Yeah.
it's difficult though, because that kind of audience has already sold, fully sold on smartphones. They're
Yes.
not going to suddenly buy a camera when the smartphone does it already. So I think
You
you've got to be a little bit
be
cautious.
surprised. You would be surprised
Yeah,
because the amount of
right.
Chinese I know that who has to use smartphone also has a camera next to them as well, and almost very often you see that they have like 2 or 3 cameras, so they're not afraid of using both at the same time. And
Yeah,
that the thing that I think that they use more smartphone is first of all because connectivities and also all this stuff that I just mentioned, all this
yeah,
like touch up things that you can use, and
yeah.
and if a camera can do all of that, they may actually finally have that kind of quirkiness to swing the customer from actually using a proper camera instead of a smartphone.
Yeah, I think the ultimate solution is a camera that can generate AI scenes from around the world, so you don't have to go anywhere. And, and
I
then
just do it at
you
home. I just do it at home.
yeah, do it at home. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it would be interesting to see exactly what's going to happen in China. But
So,
regardless, I mean, I think all of this news though is pretty encouraging for
so,
MFT at least.
but look, Jimmy, OM System hasn't ruled out a new pen. So
No, it
what do we
hasn't.
think about that?
Yeah, anyone has any ideas? Anyone has a want or wish?
I think
What sort of wish do you want to have from the
I think we
upcoming
all I think
Michael
we all
Four
thought you
camera?
might know,
Yeah.
Know, Jimmy. I think we all thought you might
Oh
have
yeah,
the
I
inside
know
track.
Pen F2 is coming. That's for sure. Yeah.
But would it be a Pen F2 though, or would it be something like more like a traditional pen? You know,
um.
just simple
Well,
and basic.
this
What
is
do you think?
personal. This is personally speaking, and
Yeah,
with no affiliations or acknowledgements or agreement from OM System. I have to declare that first before I say
yeah.
anything.
So
I,
none of what you say is based on information given.
no.
It's all your personal opinion
Yes.
of given the information we all have.
Yes.
Yeah.
I personally think it's going to be a low-end camera. It's more like an entry-level pen camera, a bit more like the pen EPL pen EP series. So it's not going to be a full-blown pen, a pen F, just like the OM3 basically. So if they can, but they can essentially make an OM3 just chopped out the or rearrange the EVF to the side instead of the top housing to make it a rangefinder style camera. They can do that. But will they do that?
Mm,
I think not at the moment. Maybe eventually they will make something, but at the moment I think they would be more keen to look at the lower end market because in the premium market they already have the OM1 series. They have the OM3 now, and to some extent the OM5 if you count it as a premium market. They need something that is sub £1,000 or sub
well,
$1,000 mark.
seems to me the most likely candidate there would be an OM10. Would
Yep.
you not think so?
If they want an OM10, they would have
Yeah.
produced one by now,
You think so?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they may want to tap into the rangefinder boxy camera style once again and see how it goes. And if that's being successful, that could lead in to the more premium model coming later on. That's my thinking. That's my thinking.
Do you think that OM System still owns the Pen brand?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It comes with it. It just
I've not heard otherwise. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it just doesn't have the Olympus name on it, but I think they inherit
Yeah.
the pen as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that wouldn't surprise me if they would bring out a new pen series cameras.
Or
And but
maybe do something like the X half.
yeah,
So
oh,
it's,
I doubt it very much going to be the X half. I do want them to make a compact cameras though, you know, like a fixed lens cameras. I do want them to make one like the Olympus Trip, for instance, and that would be something I would
would
like
be
to see.
amazing. That would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Michael Four sensors with a
Yeah.
17 fixed 1.8 lens on it, or
Yeah.
maybe even an f2.5. I
Yeah.
don't care. Just make one small enough to
Zone
put in the pocket.
Zone focus,
Zone
like the
focus.
original.
Yeah,
Well,
that would
maybe
be
not.
cool.
Maybe not.
Yeah,
But
but
it would be nice just to reestablish System as a kind of retro with retro appeal in a beginner market.
yes, Yes, and it's different enough from the OM3. That's my thinking, because what they don't want is to cannibalize the OM3s, and because by the time they launch the new camera, OM3 would have been at least 18 months, if not 24 months old.
Yeah.
So the street
Yeah.
price will come down, and then and if they launch a new cameras that is essentially another SLR style body, like the OM10, for instance, that may cannibalize that.
They didn't worry about the OM52 cannibalizing the OM3 sales.
No, because the OM5 has always been a bit different, and in terms of styling, it's not really a full blown retro camera if you look at the differences.
No.
And because ergonomically, if I can say, the OM5 is way better than the OM3 because it's got a grip on it, and but the OM3 is definitely more leaning to the stylings. They don't care about how it holds. It just got the look of
it. They should have combined them into one camera with the best of both.
It's hard though, isn't it? If people want retro, and then you can't really have a proper grip on it, because anything with a proper grip is not retro.
You can't.
Unfortunately.
Not really, no, because the original OM film cameras didn't have
a grip. Yeah, didn't have a grip.
We didn't mind at the time because we didn't know any better, but now we know better.
Actually, that's what I do wonder why, like, older SLR cameras never had proper grips on it.
I think
why didn't they?
We were all shooting with primes, and I think back in the day, the market liked cameras with that classic look. It's only later on in the late 80s and 90s, I think, that you started to get more electronics and more zooms, and you got SLRs with grips. So I don't know. I think back in the day, it didn't occur to us we might want a grip. We just
well. Yeah. Oh well. I think that's what it is. Maybe because like every time now you buy a retro cameras, and
you have to buy a grip for it.
Yeah, look at my XM5. I had to put a grip on it just because it holds better.
Yeah.
And my OM3, I also have a grip on it just because it holds better. And I know it looks better without the grip, but then for me, if I want to shoot with it, I always add a grip to it.
I had to get a grip for my EM5 Mark III. Yeah. And it's a shame that you can't use that grip on the OM5 now, because that improved the handling on that camera. But it is what it is. You either have the looks or you have the handling. There aren't many cameras that give you both.
Yeah. And I just got this comment here and say that honestly, most Pen and OMD have that retro look.
They tend to, yeah.
I do think they have a retro look, but if you think about retro, if I can call it double time, is because the current Pen and OMD lines, they have the more the 90s look when all the SLR has the grip. That's what we're talking about.
You want old-fashioned retro, not the new retro.
Yeah, which is what X100, all of this viral camera became about. It's the boxy thing without any grip, just a pure slippery box. The Leica cameras, even today, still a slippery box. And,
and they're quite big, heavy cameras too. But with Leica, the rules are different, aren't they?
And they sell you a grip for like £500.
it's. I don't think you put a grip on the Leica M, do you? You wouldn't dream of such a thing, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, shocking thing to even think about. With the Leica M, it's not whether the camera's good enough for you; it's whether you're good enough for the camera. That's the thing.
Yeah. But it's something that kind of contradicting ourselves. Where we all, especially we want retro cameras, and as soon as we got one, we're trying to find a grip for it. That's what everybody does now.
Yeah. But Chuck Ells made a point about the EP7 having a plastic top plate, which I hadn't actually noticed. But here's the thing that puzzles me: why didn't System sell the EP7 worldwide? Because it's a very decent camera. In the real pen tradition, I just can't understand why it was only kind of limited distribution. Never really understood that.
No, well, a lot of the models were either Asian exclusive or Japan exclusive, and none of them were like circulating worldwide or internationally.
Well, I mean, you couldn't buy it in the US, which is
No.
surely one of the best markets for a camera
Yeah,
of that kind.
I'm not entirely sure what the reasons behind it, but
no, that seems to be a real missed opportunity.
I think even the EPL10 was not launched internationally either.
That was quite weird. Didn't we go to a launch for the EPL10, or did it come out at the same time as the OM53? Was that in Austria?
Austria
Austria
was the M43.
Yeah, but did the EPL10 come along at about the same time?
Yes, around about the same time, but I don't think it was there.
Oh, but I seem to remember the EPL10 was not really launched, but it was quietly admitted to. So it's basically, we did ask, what's the difference between the EPL10 and the EPL9? And it was like, this menu's different, and and then you couldn't buy the EPL10 everywhere, so it wasn't very clear whether it was a successor or not. That was all a bit of a muddle.
Yeah.
But I think if OM System could just relaunch the EP7 but do it globally, give it a bit of a refresh, that could work.
I think so. I think the EP7 is a great camera. It's got a creative dial as well, just like the OM3. And it's a phenomenal camera. Even this contrast detect is super fast in single AF, and I never see a problem operating it for street photography actually. So it's quite a good camera.
I don't know how many people have got the EP7, but it's got a lovely kind of retro look. I think it's probably a better camera to look at than it is to use. Maybe, but I think it's a great camera. It's also nice for street photography because the flip up screen is just much more compact.
You know what? I actually think the EP7 looks better than XE5. And if you ask me,
yeah, and
I think so. The
autofocus, I wouldn't use it for video, I don't think, or for tracking in burst mode. But for stills shooting, the autofocus is practically instantaneous.
Yeah,
I don't know how Olympus did that with contrast AF, but it is super quick.
So my only question to myself is that will the next OM System camera, that if they're gonna launch a more low end camera, will it stick with contrast detect AF or will they go hybrid AF? I think that would be my questions. I think it makes sense to go hybrid because now even the likes of like the low end Nikon's APS-C cameras, the XM5, the entry level cameras are all having hybrid AF, so it wouldn't make sense for them to stick with contrast detect. Although there's nothing wrong with it, but that's what the customer kind of expect these days.
It's what the digital propaganda insists is necessary, isn't it?
Yep.
It's a situation that Panasonic was in. That Panasonic insisted for a long time that its DFD contrast AF was good enough for the product, and I think it almost certainly was. But enough people applied enough pressure to make Panasonic bring in contrast AF, phase detect AF, and then the rest, as I say, is history. I think the contrast AF holds cameras back for video and for subject tracking. But for stills photography, I don't think it's a handicap at all.
No, it's not.
But then if you do shoot video, you probably do need phase detect AF.
I'm pretty sure everyone who's listening right now are all photographers. None of us shoot videos.
So in that respect, then the EP7 is one of the quickest cameras I've used. And it's contrast AF. So I don't know what that tells you. But then my Lumix G9 was also ridiculously quick for single shot photography.
The Mark 1, not the Mark 2.
Not the Mark 2, no. I can't afford the Mark 2, Jimmy. No, the Mark 1. less convincing if you're trying to follow moving subjects in burst mode. And I think video, you are going to see some pulsing now and again. If you try to use it with AF, if you just put it on a tripod, focus manually, and film somebody presenting, or you're just prepared to refocus as you need to, it's fine. But focus tracking, not so much. No.
Chuck L just said GR3X was way worse autofocus than EP7.
Well, I've used a few of the GRs, and I haven't used them directly alongside the EP7. But the EP7, it could possibly benefit from more AF points, because the AF area, even in single point mode, is fairly big. It's difficult to be really, really precise with it. But for speed, I've not used anything quicker. That's all.
Interesting. I will be curious to see how quick the new GR4 is, and then just to see what the autofocus is like.
There's a lot of hype around the GRs, some of which I think is fair, but I think some of the faults of the GR series are somewhat overlooked. I don't like the electric lenses. You've got a fixed focal length lens. I don't like the fact that it has to emerge electrically on the, do you know what I mean? It's a motorized lens mechanism. Not very keen on that. When you've got a prime lens, fixed focal length prime lens, it'd be nice if it was fixed and didn't have to extend and retract. But
well, that's the GR for you, and it's always been like that.
I know, but every camera has things you like and things you don't. But the GR series at the moment, it's on a high. Everyone loves it, so good luck to it. It's nice to see it succeed.
That's the only product that Pentax Ricoh are really making money at the moment. I think
perhaps. I was very surprised to learn that the K3 monochrome is now end of life. It stopped. Didn't last long, did it?
No,
shame.
It doesn't. Yep.
No, that surprised me. But maybe this is Pentax. 10 years from now, it might come back.
Yeah. Chuck L just say the snap focus, preset focus is quite useful.
I never found it is useful. Yes, I never found it quite instantaneous, because unless I'm doing something wrong with the GRs, even if you got snap focus set, it still has to do a little jiggle when you come to take the shot. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. It's not fixed focus in the way I expected it to be, but it is useful. Yeah.
But guess what? This is basically zone focus, right?
It kind of is, but it seems to me there's still a little bit of focusing going on, quick as it is. But I mean, one thing you can't take away from the GL series is the size. They're just tiny.
Oh, it is
tiny.
Get
proper image quality out of something so small. That's quite something.
Yes. Maybe one day I'll get one. I'm not sure yet. maybe. I'm not. Yeah, I don't know whether you're a GL person or not, Jimmy. I can't quite decide. But you love the GM1. Yeah. I think you'd like the GRs, but I think the fact is that you have to choose a focal length, like any compact camera with a fixed prime lens. You have to choose a focal length that makes sense. So with the GR, I don't know whether there's going to be a GR4X with a 40mm equivalent lens. Otherwise, I'll go for a wider lens. Yeah. I like
28 millimeters,
or I like the 28.
And it's the same with the Leica Q, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you want a longer focal length, you're allowed to get the Q43 or 43 or whatever they call it.
Yeah, I never too bothered about the 40 millimeters focal length. I mean, I know for some people they may like it, but if I shoot the street, I tend to use a wider lens anyway. And
yeah, it's a bit more forgiving, isn't it?
It is, and also that I think the 28 millimeters struck the right balance of not being ultra wide, but close enough that you can still do something about it.
And I think as well, you can't expect one camera to do everything. We talked about this so many times before. But if you're going to go out doing street photography, you've got to accept that the camera that's best at that kind of work is going to be rubbish at other stuff. So you have to choose the right camera for the job, don't you?
Yeah. Well, actually, Chuck brought a comment here. I mean, if you can put an APS-C and a GR, what could you do with MFT sensor?
True.
It is.
True, but then the GR's controls aren't exactly supersized. If they
No.
were smaller still, how would that be? I don't know.
Well, that will be that will be the GM.
Well,
That will be
perhaps,
the GM. Yeah, so
perhaps.
it is quite small. The buttons and controls are very tiny. You know, it's not really,
I
to be honest,
think
not really user friendly.
I think perhaps the question is though, how small would it be with a fixed lens? So we're not talking about an interchangeable lens camera. We're talking about a fixed lensed MFT compact. Would be quite
don't we all
interesting,
want
wouldn't it?
don't we all want that? You know, if it does come out, I think it would be quite sensational.
At the moment, the EP7 is quite close to that, but because it's interchangeable lens, it's a bigger camera.
Yeah.
But if OM System could be persuaded to make compact cameras, I mean, we should get OM System senior management a bunch of GR3s or GR4s in a box and say, try these, see if you can't do better.
So something I do always wonder, you know, like all these executive in these camera companies like Nikon, Sony, and Fuji, do they ever really try other brands' cameras? You know, do they really?
I have asked that question once or twice, and I usually get a polite no. You know, they usually come out with some corporate line like, "We are only concerned with what we produce as a company." Of course, we are aware of what other companies do, but I don't think they'd ever go so far as to say they try this stuff out.
But I mean, I don't understand. You know, that's one thing in like even in sports. Yeah, you know, you would play with your opponents. You will learn about their tricks. You'll learn about them. You know, and then you want to beat them, right? You know, that's how it is, right? In sports.
I'm sure they do, but I suppose in corporate circles you'd call that competitive analysis.
Yeah.
But I did try to have a conversation about that with some Adobe people a few years ago, and I was politely blanked really when I tried to find out whether they tried other software.
Yeah.
I think their approach was, you know, Adobe does what Adobe does. We don't concern ourselves with other companies.
Well, you know what? You know, I know.
Bet they do.
As much as we love Sony now, but I mean, for those who follow the history of electronics, would know about a thing or two about their Trinitron TV, right? You know, the top of the range TV, which kind of almost basically dominates the whole TV market. If you want a good TV, you buy Sony, and that was how good they were in the heydays.
Yeah, the Trinitrons.
And then what happened to them now? You know, like they licensing the LCD panels, LED panels from other companies who own the patent, which is like basically Samsung and Panasonic, and it shows, you know, like if dare say arrogance sometimes may not play the big part of it, and you do need to learn about competitors. You do need to learn about what's good and bad at the moment, and you have to move with the trend and the time. You can't always think that whatever you think is gonna be the best forever.
No, and you can start to believe your own propaganda within these companies.
Yeah,
that's the danger. Many years ago, I made a terrible mistake. I agreed to do a roundup of 28-inch TVs before flat screens came out.
Yeah,
and one of those was a 28-inch Trinitron, and I'm convinced it weighed about 4.5 tons. How I got it up the stairs to my office, I have absolutely no idea. It was so heavy that you couldn't repack it because the foam packaging compressed and broke under the weight of the TV.
I remember how heavy they were. Yeah, there was.
Yeah, massive. You couldn't put them upstairs because your floor joists would bend. Had to have them downstairs.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
but you know,
so yeah, I think a lot of companies do believe their own propaganda, and there are certain things you can't say within your own company in meetings and to your seniors about other brands.
final spanner on, into the ring. Since we're talking about like learning from competitors, you know, I think the Japanese like to play fair and square. You know, they would mind their own business. They would like to compete with their own strength without having to, you know, within a close circle.
And they'll keep a polite distance from competing companies.
Yes,
always respectful, but not close.
Yeah, but now let's go back to the Chinese market. They are the complete opposite.
That's
and I can tell you right now.
No.
They would learn about what you do and then reverse engineers everything.
Yeah. Well, is this what has got Viltrox into trouble? I've no idea. I don't know anything that I know what you know. I've no idea. But this is the sort of trouble that you can get into when you reverse engineer a product and do things you weren't supposed to do.
No, but what I'm trying to say is, in terms of mentality, is very different there. In China, how they play game is very different. You got to be aggressive. You got to be quick. They, have an idea. If you don't patent it first, they will, and then if you don't do it first, they will. If you mention something in public, they learn about it. They think it's a good idea. They probably do it quicker than you. So like, it's just it.
And if you do patent it, it doesn't matter anyway. They're going to do it.
They do it again anyway. So
yeah.
So that is kind of in some way why they develop their stuff so quickly, and how they can improve so quickly. A lot to do with how quickly they can turn around things, and I think that's one strength about the Chinese market, or the companies are, and that's exactly what I mentioned about the MFT market. Once they do start to learn about making cameras, you will see, I think within 10 years you may start to see some of the flagship cameras can be as good, if not better, than some of the mainstream cameras. And obviously, they're still depending on a lot of the stuff from external sources. For instance, chips. The sensors that at the moment the majority the chipsets are made by Sony, and there's only a handful of other sensor manufacturers out there. That's something we haven't talked about. It's more deep down about the fundamental technologies, who developed them and who makes them. Chinese, I'm pretty sure they make some sensors, but I don't think they're near as good as Sony. So a lot of these probably still going to be, in short term at least, going to be still relying on external suppliers.
My only experience of Chinese cameras so far has been that they're certainly cheap, but they use technology which would have been abandoned in Japan decades ago. So they're cheap. They're cheap because they're using really old tech.
Oh yeah.
I don't know whether Kodak Pixpro cameras are Chinese or not. I don't know.
This side to our screen say camcorders return 2026.
they have been sliding back a little over the past few years. Yeah. They've been recovering in popularity somewhat. Maybe this is something nobody ever compares. Mirrorless camera, camcorder, which is best? That would be an interesting one.
that would be. Right. Yeah. Okay. And I guess it's almost time. Gonna maybe wrap up in about 5 minutes now. Try not to go overboard. I still have to tidy up my office here. It's a long job, I'm telling you now. I can't believe how much stuff I got. So I have to really stream down. Anyone want any spare lenses? Let me know.
How big is your office, Jimmy?
It's not very big actually. It's probably, I don't know, 200 square feet.
You've got miles of room. I used to have an office that big. You've got acres of space.
Yeah, but I also have a lot of stuff.
I mean, the room I work from is probably about 2 meters by 4. So what would that be? About 6 by 12. So my workspace is less than half the size of yours, Jimmy. So I think you need to get that straightened out. You've got room for loads of desks and studio setups and all sorts of stuff like that.
Which I will be doing once I clean it all up.
Good. Well done.
Yeah. So this year, one of my main goal is that I'm gonna I'm gonna change my office here. I'm gonna start filming everything here, and do more in the office. I can also do more proper live streaming and do more demo. Hopefully, that we can all sort out, and also invite more guests. I think that would be my aim as well.
You're going to be able to stand at a desk and do like show and tells and all sorts of that kind of thing.
No, what I want is some sort of top-down camera, so I can see kind of like better the desk, and you can kind of like explain a lot of stuff and with the products. I think that would be quite good.
Are you going to have a camera on a dolly? Because you got a dolly, I believe.
I got a dolly. I got a dolly. Yes.
You just need the space to use it now.
Yeah. Well, it's not enough space for that, and I think the dolly are probably quite cool when I go shows and stuff like that. Or yeah. It's an interesting thing.
Ideally, what you want is an AI-powered dolly with subject tracking, so they can follow you around.
That's the next thing that YCNE will develop, right? It's a motorized dolly with AI tracking.
Yeah, that would be good. And if you could dress it up as a robot, that'd be even better.
I wish I could make something like that, and I'm just not talented enough to do that.
It's got to be done. It's got to be done.
Yeah. I know. I'm not young anymore. I just don't have the energy.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Maybe 20 years ago.
Or disguise your gimbal as like a ventriloquist dummy. So that you're walking around and it doesn't look like a gimbal. It looks like you've got little pet dog on your arm or something like that. It's just looking at people.
Yeah.
It's been a long day, Jimmy. I'm having all sorts of weird ideas. So perhaps we should wrap this up.
Yeah, we
I think I'm losing my mind.
I think so. Maybe it's because it's April the 1st. It's April Fool's Day. Yes, that's all it is. That's all it is.
Should have thought of all this.
All of this stuff that I read this morning is completely fake news. So, maybe I'm talking rubbish at the moment.
Should have thought of all this before we did the show. You should have done some April Fool thing.
Yeah, I should do it. I did a video 2 years ago, the April Fool. I just released it on the 1st of April, and I remember I was talking about Pen F2, and so many people click on the email, click on the video.
Yeah.
I don't think I can swing that same trick twice, because it's been, this rumor has been around for too long now. Yeah. But anyway, right. So this is the end of today's live stream. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you all had fun talking a little bit about, or listening a lot of the MFT stuff. And I do think personally, the future is, at least in the medium term, it's quite bright. Do let me know in the comment section below what you think about what I just said, what we just discussed in today's stream about MFT in general. Whether you think the Chinese are gonna be in the market as good as I'm hoping, and if they are, and I'm pretty sure they're going to revive the market quite a bit and at least improve the sales, and ultimately whatever they do, OM System will be benefit from the sales of lens and cameras in the future, because I'm pretty sure in short term at least Chinese company are going to make some really dirt cheap cameras, feature wise, build quality wise, not going to be good, but the thing is, the goal is for them is to sell the camera, but people starting to buy this camera, ultimately, if they do get a hang of it, if they do get into photography, they would like to look for something nicer. And in short term, at least, the better MFT cameras are only basically OM System, to some extent Panasonic at the moment. So we will be the beneficiary eventually. So any sort of extra sales that coming up from somewhere is always good news for a business. So I think that's why I'm thinking is a very bright.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I'm going to check in 5 years' time, Jimmy, and say you were right, or Jimmy, that just didn't happen. We'll see.
Just also remember, I'm speaking on the 1st of April. There you go.
You can't get out of it that easily.
I got it recorded this stream, so everyone. Yeah. Also, the date of publish is 1st of April, 2026. Right. Okay. Anyway, good to hear you all. And remember to leave some comment down below about MFT and anything you want to talk about, relating to any sort of comments that we make about today's stream, whether it's a Chinese company, third-party lenses in general, the creative market, and how traditional companies may be a little bit too rigid when it comes to developments, and maybe a little bit more too conservative when it comes to developments. Anything you think about is good. Leave some comment there, and we probably make another discussion over these topics that you may want to talk about in the future. So anyway, thank you very much for listening, and hope you liked today's new look of the stream. I'm going to start to tweak it a little bit more in the future, and we may start to have some new graphics as well, so hopefully I will bring it all in at some point. Look, I can even change to just rod as well. Just look at, that's not rod. I haven't changed rod. That's me. That's me.
Got rid of me. Thanks.
Oh, there you go.
Thanks.
There you go. That's the animation. That's the animation that I'm trying to do. But hopefully it'll be cool. So that's it. That's it. We're gonna end it now. It's 5 o'clock. It's 2 hours dot on, and I will see you all next time. So ciao. Bye now.
Ciao. Ciao.
Enjoy the sunshine.